This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by Tushy. You know how licking wing sauce off your fingers is the best way to get them clean? Bidets do the same thing for your rear end, only with a precise stream of clean water. Instead of using toilet paper that falls apart and smears stuff around, or wet wipes that dry you out with chemicals, you can wash all the summer poops away with a Tushy bidet. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order at hellotushy.com when you use code CUPodcast at checkout. Tushy sent me a Tushy bidet several months ago, and let me tell you, it does change your bathroom life. You feel cleaner, you feel fresher, and it might just put a pep in your step. Installing the Tushy bidet is so easy, anyone can do it in under 10 minutes, and those 10 minutes will truly change your life. Wiping with toilet paper just smears that stuff all around and can spread bacteria that can cause chronic infections down there, like hemorrhoids, UTIs, yeast infections, and more. Tushy bidets are easy to use. You just sit down, relax, and turn the knob to spray a precise stream of fresh water at your butt. It reduces your toilet paper use by 80%, saving money and your plumbing. No more clogging up toilets. And every Hello Tushy bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return and a 12-month warranty. Stay shower fresh all summer long and join the 2 million butts who already switched to Tushy. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code CUPodcast at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at HELLOTUSHY.com with promo code CUPodcast.
Whew.
All right, Ian, we want to talk Xbox 360 games?
Not really. I'm out of energy, but we're going to. And we're going to see what's happening here with the 360 collecting scene.
So here's the background to this. I've had... these people came up to me out of nowhere at SoCal, Retro Gaming Expo, and Too Many Games. So 2 conventions both in June that I did.
Right.
On the circuit there. And people... it's a circuit, kind of. And people volunteered to say that, hey, Pat, have you been following what's happening with Xbox 360 games? And I'm like, what's happening with 360 games? He said, the prices have been going out of control now for over a year on this stuff. And I'm like trying to say, like, what do you mean? What's out of control? Like, well, a game that was worth, $20 is now like $150, $200. That sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, that seems strange, but all right. And so that has been told to me several times. I've been kind of seeing it. Obviously, retro, you go back 20 years and now I want to rebuy the stuff. We always talk about it, Ian. Once you get disposable income, you have a job, maybe you don't have a family yet, you're like your mid to late 20s. I want to buy the shit I grew up with. Unfortunately, we're all getting older. That's now 360 games. 2005 was almost 20 years ago. When the 360 came, or 2006 when the 360 came out.
Right.
It's almost 20 years ago.
I find conversations like this interesting, especially at like conventions, because there's nothing surprising about any of this. And I feel like these are the equivalent conversations as to, the weather's nice today. It's something you can bring up to talk about. And it makes sense to me that 360 games would collecting would be on the rise. From you kind of alluded to it, but from my time working at Luna, you see the popular stuff that's very expensive start to lose its value. And then you see the stuff that had no value start to gain in value. And as we said, it's kind of, but there's 2 reasons. One is the nostalgia factor. So yes, as a you buy what you had growing up. And I always say, for whatever, like, it always seems like 22 is the year that it happens. Like 22, 23, like that's, fresh out of college, a little extra money. And you start buying that stuff up. But the other thing that happens with this stuff is I think there's always games that people look at and go, that's probably going to be rare someday, but it's not. For as long as these games are still in somewhat regular circulation, a lot of those prices don't jump. It's rare to see a game get really expensive during a system's lifespan. Not impossible. It does happen, but it's not super common. And we've also seen games that get really expensive during a system's lifespan end up being less expensive later on because more are found. It gets a re-release.
The Wii U game we talked about?
Right. Or a big one that I always think of is 3D Dot Game Hero for the PlayStation 3. It's a top-down Zelda type game, but with like voxel graphics, like 3D pixels.
Okay.
Real cool game. A lot of fun. At one point, it was going for like $150, like just after the PS3 era, like during the end of it. Now it's about 50. Why? Because they found more copies. There was more out there. So I think what happens is as games leave regular circulation, as it stops being the system of the moment, as these games, and this isn't so much a thing anymore, but as these games get cycled out of places like GameStop, as you see them getting, something like that, they become less available and the market gets tighter. And I think that's when some of the games start to go up in value. So it makes sense to me that this is happening with 360. It's happened with every fucking system prior to it, and it will happen with every system after it that has physical games to a point. So I think, 360, PS3, I think that PS4 and Xbox, well, I say every system after, but really I think there's only one more that will be any remotely collectible, and I think that's PS4 and Xbox.
You're going to get to the generation where physical media is no longer, viable for a lot of the games. Or due to the servers shutting down and updates and things like that.
Right. At that point, you're the games that were released physically, you're buying them to have a plastic case on the wall. As we talked about earlier in the episode when we were talking about the Atari thing, your physical game purchase doesn't mean anything these days.
So I looked up, always the hidden gem videos. I looked up like 360 hidden gem. I told Ian, I immediately got like 15 to 20 results within the past year. So I'm not saying that is the cause of this, but it's another sort of like more coal in the furnace, or like, oh, now people are be looking for these games that they didn't play even when the 360 was out, or now that we have collectors that are collecting for the 360 that are like, I'm going to get this stuff in case it goes up in value, and that can drive the price as well.
It feeds itself. It feeds itself until the cycle burns out on that system.
And that's where I wonder, and it's hard to know, there is a percentage of all of that. What percentage of this is gamified by, we want to make a new collecting market, or I think it's going to be a new collecting market, so I'm going to go buy, everyone's going to go buy the same games up at the same time. Because we saw it happen with NES. We certainly I saw it happen with Hagani Overnight. Hagani Overnight was a fad created on Nintendo H forums back in the day. Hey, Hagani is rarer than you think, and the person
it's extremely rare.
Not as rare as it was 20 years ago when you can get it, because it was not going for that much money. It was like an $80 game, $60 game. And on Nintendo Age, what happened was people talked it up and everyone went out and bought it.
Sure.
That's exactly what happened. And the price skyrocketed, because before, who the hell cares?
Well, I mean, and this is a conversation as old as time that we've had. I think there is a natural interest in 360 from the age of just like, as I said, 22. The age of the consumers. But yes, I think that, you see these people start to buy these games start to sell a little bit more. Celebrities make, videos about the good 360 games, and then those ones jump up in price. I mean, sure. That to me is just basic collectibles.
I'm curious what a Hagani cart goes for. I'm sure it's hundreds of $1,200. All right.
Jesus, we had a boxed complete copy that only went for like $250.
Yeah, there you go.
That was ages ago.
Should have bought it 2 locations. So, so Ian's seen it. Do you remember? Maybe because you worked at the store. Do you remember this being like this happening within a year or so for a brand new console, like say the GameCube, where it was like, oh no, now these games that are like were $10 are now $50, $75 games, like not overnight, but within like weeks or months. You remember that happening?
Every system.
It happened like I said,
every system has had this kind of thing, and I explained why.
No, but I mean, do you specifically remember a system like you were like, I knew like this month all of a sudden everyone wanted Mario Party 5, where like you saw it happen, where it was like it didn't happen. Like
one, I don't think the 360 thing is as overnight as people are trying to make it sound like. Two, if I had to make a close comparison, GameCube would be it.
It was GameCube,
yes.
Or it was like 1 year. Okay, it is what it is. The next year,
GameCube never became the most popular system in the store, but in terms of seeing a jump in popularity, GameCube, Dreamcast, Saturn. In terms of prices, just like within the span of what I would consider a short span of time for collectibles, just going through the fucking roof.
Do you remember that were the times that far apart? Was Dreamcast like years before the GameCube around the same time?
Dreamcast was before.
Like probably a couple years at least, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Saturn was like 2 waves. You had the first wave, which jumped the rare good games into the stratosphere and left the shitty ones on the bottom. And then you had the second wave where all of a sudden even the shitty games were cranked up to
where you have a new collector market finding it. People have
I can't enter this part of the market, but I can enter this part of the market. So they all entered that part of the market, which then they discovered a new console to collect. Basically, Saturn is interesting too because Saturn was well known to have expensive games before collecting was a big thing. So the price hikes on Saturn games were kind of in 2 very separate chunks. It took 2 steps to make Saturn unobtainable by just about everyone.
Yeah, because the second wave were probably people that didn't own it originally. A lot of them were just like, I want to get into Saturn stuff, and I'm going to get into it. I'm going to see what's out there.
Well, sure, but also what I'm saying is like these are the people who then get into it, like Vonnie, and go, okay, well, I have some money for these more expensive games, but not all of them. So then they start buying the cheaper games, and then retailers start boosting the price of the cheaper games because suddenly they're selling.
I guess the difference is this to me, is that the 360 was not like the GameCube lost that console war by a huge margin. Saturn did as well. 360 was extremely popular. And so I wonder when you see a console that was as ubiquitous as that, see a jump up. Like we're going to talk about, I have a stack of games here. I'm just actually curious. It's going to be like a little test to see are any of these commonish games are worth anything. I'm actually curious. I have no idea. I'm just curious to see like 360 games. The 360, the last game that was made was probably about 12 years ago ish, 2013. Want to say around there?
I got my PS4 in 2014, and the prior systems were still doing okay.
That's what I mean. So we're not that far off.
I think 2015 or 16 was the last year that they did the sports games for the 360 and PS3.
If you don't count that, you go a couple years before when they're still making some non-sports stuff.
I would say 2014 was probably the last hurrah for the 360 and the PS3.
Okay.
If I had to guess. Because that was a year after the PS4 came out.
So let's see, how many 360s are made? Xbox, or how many were sold? Xbox 360.
Well, while you're looking, I'll jump in and say, I think that the ubiquitousness, the popularity,
86 million.
The popularity of the console is actually what I think makes it. There are a couple things that make the 360 interesting to me. The popularity is not necessarily a negative. The NES was extremely popular and was still wildly collectible. The 360 is interesting because it's the last generation, and I'm really just kind of piecing this together now. It was the last generation where the flow of games was very heavy during that generation, and you had lots of AA and single A type games that were getting physical releases. Okay. The 360 was also the system, that was when, you have to remember, being able to buy games digitally on a system was an end of the 360 and PS3 era thing, not a beginning. Okay. So most of those games were released physically. You're not getting AAA games really that weren't released physically on that system. And then because of the weird AAA the weird like AA and single A games, there's a lot more physical games out there that are weird or niche that people could look for and buy.
2,100 games released through either disc, digital download, or the Xbox Live Arcade program.
Okay, so the problem is like I would want a non-XBLA list.
By the way, we have to acknowledge that the 360 marketplace is shutting down end of the month. However, that would obviously spike games that maybe or hard to find that were released in smaller.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. There's not a lot of crossover there.
That's what I mean.
There's not a lot of crossover between digital and physical.
The marketplace shutting down should have no effect on most of the common games at all. It shouldn't affect any of that.
No, it shouldn't have any effect on.
So if someone argues that, I'd be like, it has nothing to do with it. You can still get 99% of the games.
The few games that were available to be full on digitally purchased from those stores at like $60 were the most common games. So that really should not affect anything.
Okay. On Moby Games, they list almost 4,800 games for the 360. Holy shit. Well, kind of hard to be a completionist collector for the 360, I guess. You know?
Anyway, what do you want to do with this stat?
I don't know. I'm curious whether or not you would think some of these. It's almost like I want to get your feel for. Okay, you worked in the store a few years ago.
Well, this is interesting because it's been a few years, which may as well be 50 decades.
That's why I think it's interesting because you can be like, well, we can kind of do a price charting thing. You can look them up where.
Just show me the game and I'll guess it.
All right, so this is a common
under
UFC,
$5.
A UFC 2009 Undisputed. There, it was a sports game. This I don't think would have shot up probably. If you want to look up, do a price chart.
Under $5, yeah. $2.48 on the PS3.
Okay.
Where's the 360? $4.28.
Okay, that's no good. This is an interesting one. Gold. By the way, I have about 20 360 games. I don't know where I got these. GoldenEye.
$8.
$8. You think?
$8.
You think it's I feel like I should be helping you with this. But I gotta show the there. $8. Has it gone up?
$8. GoldenEye Reloaded for the 360. $7.71. Oh, that's loose. I should be looking for complete in box.
Yeah, complete in box, Ian.
$14.68.
Resident Evil 5. So this is a popular game. Capcom,
Not the complete version.
Oh, there are two different versions?
Yep, there's the gold. I'm going to guess. I would be interested in seeing what gold is. I'm going to guess.
So what did this sell for when you last worked at the store?
I don't know, but I'm going to guess what I don't, but I'm going to guess what I think it would have.
Okay. $15?
Not then. I would say $8.
$8 now or then?
Then, but I mean, the game is, I'm guessing now and seeing what it actually is now.
Oh, I wanted to compare like when you were.
Well, no, because I'm not going to be able to give you a good comparison. Okay. I'm giving you my best guess.
You're guessing $8 on Resident Evil 5. Where's my sound effects for this?
My guess is based on when I worked there.
Okay, great.
$5.18.
Okay, so that's a loser.
Yep.
Okay.
I do seem to remember that being the $7.99.
This is an interesting one that you'd be surprised I have. I don't know where I got it from, but you like mech games. Earth Defense Force 2017.
Great game. This is one that I could see being worth maybe $20 now.
Kind of made me think shot up because
it's niche. And niche is what you're looking for. 2017.
Yep. I have the price here, Ian.
What is it?
$13.42.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
It hasn't really moved there then. Okay.
One thing that could be the case with that is there are multiple versions of that game and like they all play similarly. So it could be just an old version. That Grand Theft Auto is going to be cents.
But it has the DLC, Stories from Liberty City.
Oh,
complete edition.
$10.
$10?
Yep.
So this I think I was actually going to play this because I was like, well, I saw the complete version. I might as well pick it up here. Because it includes the Ballad of Gay Tony.
Why is it not?
And Lost in the Dam there. Yeah, I should have had this prepared better, but I think it's interesting. This is a 2-disc set. Picked this up at the swap meet. By the way, I think I bought most of these games for like $3 at the swap meet. Back when I was passing, green stacks of games.
$25.25.
Okay.
Interesting.
So that's because it's complete.
Probably because it's the complete, and that's a weird one because there's Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah.
Then there's Grand Theft Auto Stories from episodes from Liberty City.
Okay.
That is just
the DLC.
Just the DLC that you can play it on its own. And then there's that one.
This is like the limited run edition, basically.
Yes.
Next, I looked up the next one. I already got it. Quantum of Solace. So I had the price here.
$7.99.
Geez, you're almost dead on $8.50. So these are like not.
Yeah, I still got
not ones that are. I'm waiting for that $80 or $100 one.
This isn't like the excitement of the exciting like seeing prices shoot up level that I think these people were trying to say. But
if it all
a rise in price of 50%. We were looking at the price charting last night, and
the average price had
was
gone up
20%.
Yeah, the average price of games went up about $2 and change.
Yeah,
from like around 10 to 12.50ish or so. 12 change. So 20% increase.
I mean, a 50% increase on a game that I couldn't get rid of
is something.
That's something.
It's like it'd be the equivalent of an NES game where it'd be like, I don't know, a random platformer, a $3 platformer, like Chubby Chubby's worth a lot now, but I don't know. Give me a random Dino Ricky.
Sure.
Going for $3 to $12.
Yeah.
It's like, what just happened?
Right.
Next one, Ian.
That is a weird one to me, honestly.
How about Final Fantasy 13?
A couple of bucks.
It was $55 pre-owned at some point, according to the GameStop. This is a 3-disc set. I don't think it's a proper. Oh, it's not the proper case.
It is. That's how.
Oh, this is how it came. Really?
Yeah. Awful.
Those cheap bastards. They're stacked. The discs are stacked together on it. That's terrible.
CIB $9.49.
So that's kind of like.
I find that hard to believe. Like I could see
too
that.
many of them?
I mean, maybe, but if it might be old enough at this point, but it's below 10. So honestly, that's still within the area of what I would have thought.
All right.
That was a $5 game at Luna for a while.
It was. There's just so many of them. So like this is like a dirt common game.
Yes.
That's now 5. The next one I priced out, NBA Jam. I remember I played this on the phone with good old stuttering Craig.
Okay, that might be interesting. Well, no. So that was that's one of the few instances of a digital game that got a physical release. However, the digital version ended up getting a tournament edition upgrade that never got. So technically, it is a version behind.
On Fire was a different version entirely. It wasn't just DLC. It was a different product.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, I would say $15 on that.
$22.
Okay.
So this is like a coveted 360
That's
game.
an interesting one then. But I think that would have gone for about $15 back then. So it has gone up a little bit.
That's a good markup. That's like a 50%.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Raise for that. Next one, Ian. This is an interesting one. This is the Game of the Year edition.
PGR 3?
Of Project Gotham Racing 3.
That's got to be like
is this garbage?
$2. Yeah.
That's a shame. You know, so you think the racing games are never gonna?
No, it's not that. It's that was extremely common.
Gotcha.
That was like one of the first games I think you could really get for. I think that was one of the first 360 games. $6.
So that's kind of yeah. The next one I looked up,
$1 more than I would have expected.
This is an interesting one because this is the series that people kind of still like, right? Left 4 Dead.
They do. The problem is those versions, all of the Valve stuff that was released did not have mods, and Valve games. So like the Orange Box, the Team Fortress 2 version that was on there didn't have mods. This has no modifications. And they didn't get the updates either. That's a very dead version of a popular game. I'm going to say $8.
16.
Really?
So does that tell you something, or it's like interesting?
Yeah, it is.
Because he said it's not as modded as PC ones. And
can you do split screen on this? Yeah, you can. So that's probably a big part of it too. Is you can play local with someone.
The next one I got, it's Mass Effect 2, sealed. Sealed. I got this at Comic-Con. I don't know how I got this at Comic-Con. I don't remember. I don't know how I ended up in a Mass Effect. Oh, Legendary panel. That there's a sticker on it. So this might be worth a little bit more because it's sealed. But we'll just look up Mass Effect, the regular one.
$3 or $5.99.
Regular and then sealed probably 10.
Sealed $12.93.
Yeah, worthless.
Yeah,
still that's surprising. So like this is the game I would think that people want to go. These are Xbox ones. I play for some reason. This is one I thought that would be a surefire. Everyone loves Mass Effect.
They do,
but there's just too many of them still. I guess where it's just like
I mean yeah. The amount of copies of that game that exists this is a Super Mario Bros. 3 of the system. It's insane how many copies of that exist. Plus there have been a ton of there have been re-releases, remasters, and there's no reason why anyone other than a completionist who wants to like get everything. There's no reason.
Regular Mass Effect.
In fact, even I mean just as common.
Just chum.
Yeah, at $5, I'm sure.
Look that one up. I'll look up the next one here while you do that. I want to look up Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball on Xbox. I have right here.
We're not talking Xbox. We're talking.
I know. There's only 2 more left. This is good. We're getting to popular games now.
Okay, Mass Effect 1. They're saying $12.57 for a CIB, and maybe it probably
is as popular as the second one.
It probably is less common than the second one. But it's still not. It's still common. It's like what's an NES equivalent? Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, that's the Japanese version. The US version is $4.23.
Oh, so less than the second one because it isn't as good of a game, I think, to people. Next,
the new price is higher though. If you had a sealed one of those, that would be $20.80.
I looked this up already. I'm gonna get triggered. Another epic game that was inspired by Unreal here. Gears of War.
That was not inspired by Unreal. It doesn't play anything like
the
Unreal.
look of the characters comes from it.
Okay.
Same engine. All right, so
I know it's the same engine.
all right, well, let me have my rant. Gears of War, $8.16 for Gears of War.
And a lot of these are by $1 or $2 more expensive than I would have guessed. But I'm not seeing anything.
It is price charting, so the algorithm you got to trust.
Right.
That. I'm sure you can find it cheaper. Last one, Halo 3. Like you want to say the peak of the franchise? To a lot of
Yes,
people?
and that's got to be.
So this is going to probably be a decent amount. This is a Super Mario.
No, it's not going to be a decent amount at all. That game is so fucking
It's a
common.
Super Mario 3. This is a Super Mario 3. Halo 3 is a Super Mario 3.
Yes, that is. No, you're looking at $8.23, which that is 100% $2.23 more, $3.23 more than I would have expected.
So you expect a lot of these games to be $5 or $6, and they're like a little about $8.
Here's an interesting thing, though.
Okay.
The Halo 3,
Halo
which goes for $8.23 used, according to price charting, nearly $100 new. $94.62.
That makes 0 sense.
I think that's got to be
It's weird collector.
Well, so the Japanese Xbox one goes for $111 brand new.
Okay.
The PAL version only goes for $16 brand new. I think that could be a case of a weird collector thing, but I think more than likely maybe it aggregated a sale price it shouldn't have,
or some graded ones got thrown in and got fucked it up.
Yeah. Because I
can't
see that.
Just from my small sample of about 15 or so games, you do see it increase, here and there and some. I was surprised by the NBA Jam. NBA Jam was the most expensive one.
Yeah. Surprising, but not. This is not this is not the insane rise we saw in GameCube games.
No. That's
where we were literally raising the price by like $10 every time we got certain games in. Over the course of 2 months, a game would go in our system from $20 to like $70.
And that's what I mean about when I say large increase, where it's like 500%. That's how it's being sold to me. And yeah, there's probably some hard to find games I can imagine, but
I'm sure I could put together a compelling list of games here that if I was in the market every day selling and buying, I might be able to put together a list that I could say, okay, this could make it look that way. But if what they said was even some common games, I don't see that being true yet.
But most of these games were basically rise with inflation. Going from a $6 game to $8 to me is not like a huge thing. If it went from 6 to 15, I would be like, okay, there's something
if we were
going
seeing a lot of games that I guessed at 8 going to 15 or 20, then there would have been something else there. But we're arguing a couple of bucks.
So this could be a lot of hype because I have some uncommon ones, but mostly common here. This one's probably uncommon, the NBA Jam one.
Now I think it's going to happen. I do, and I think there's going to be games that it happens to, but. It's the fact that they said something about common games that you said that's weird to me, because the common games that were made for the system were produced in numbers that
millions
that we probably did not see before and we will not see since. I think in terms of games getting printed out the ass, the PS2, Xbox 360 and PS3 era is probably that era, because it's the perfect meeting of games getting extremely popular and becoming mainstream with the fact that we have not figured out digital sales infrastructure yet. So, we used to joke. We would have oftentimes entire rows of just the Assassin's Creed games.
Sure.
Entire rows or entire end cap segments of just copies of Mass Effect 1 and 2 and 3. The most common NES games you didn't see in the numbers that we're seeing some of these.
Yes.
It's just, for every Golf on the Nintendo, where every store's got 1 billion copies, there's 3 more games at least, or 4 more games, or 5 more games for a more modern system like 360 or PS3.
Because they still have them.
Right.
Sure.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, you got an alarm going off.
Yeah.
It's time to end the segment.
We have been going.
But that's a good segment.
No, it was.
I thought it was going to be a disaster.
No, it was fun. I knew it would be fun.
Yeah, good
Once
idea
we got
every now
to the
and then.
guessing games, I knew it was going to be a good
LA
time.
Noire was a little bit more than I thought, right? So there you go.
More than I thought, for sure.
Good on LA Noire, my favorite modern game, besides Star Trek Fleet Command.